Hi everyone, this is Joe at Tree Pittsburgh, and I want to talk to you today about something special that's happening. Our friends over at Dancing Gnome Brewery in Sharpsburg are releasing a series of beer can designs that feature wonderful Pittsburgh trees. And the first tree that's going to be featured is the Eastern White Pine. So I thought I'd take a few moments to teach you about the Eastern White Pine tree, and then at the end of the video tell you a little bit more about the beer can design, and if you're an adult, how you can get your hands on a really cool collectible can featuring one of Pittsburgh's great trees. I'm standing here today in front of an Eastern White Pine. This is a very small one, and when people think of trees that have needles like this, everyone calls them all pines. And that's not always true, because there are other trees that have needles that also have cones that might be in our area. These would be trees like hemlock, spruce, fir, cedars, larch, cypress, and even redwoods. And they all have needles. Most of our pines, however, have needles that are in bundles, which means they're kind of attached to each other at the base. And pine needles are usually 2 inches and longer. So today we're going to talk about this pine, the Eastern White Pine. But you could also find Austrian, pitch, Scotch, black, Table Mountain pine, red pine. Oh, there's other ones like Virginia loblolly and even jack pine. But we're going to talk about this great tree here, the Eastern White Pine. This is very common throughout Pennsylvania. It gets the name Eastern White Pine because of the wood. It's a very light colored wood. And as I'm talking, I'm going to walk up the hill here. We have some small sapling pines that are growing underneath the parent tree. So here's a very large example of an Eastern White Pine. And as it gets higher and higher, hopefully we can see that. There we go, very nice tree. And there's a whole grove of them up here. So we're gonna get a little bit closer, go investigate, learn some things about these. Like I said, very common throughout the state. The lumber is very strong, but it's also very lightweight and it's easy to work with. So you can go to some of the home stores and you buy your pine lumber. Some of that might be white pine, but there's other species that they harvest from southern states as well. But for Pennsylvania, for close to 200 years, this is between the 1700s and 1900s, white pine was definitely the most sought after wood for logging, and in the whole northeastern US. It's one of the biggest species of pine east of the Rocky Mountains. And the needles, which we're looking at here, have a few interesting things about them. See if we can focus in here a little better. There we go. Nobody wants a blurry video. The needles are arranged in bundles, and I'll show you what that means in a moment. But just to talk about them, they're very rich in vitamins A and vitamin C, and they contain as much as 5 times vitamin C to an equal weight in lemons. And you would need a lot of needles to equal that, but the young needles are often chopped up and steeped and make very good tea. So people use basically the tar, the pine pitch for glue, filler, even waterproofing. The bark of those very young trees that we looked at is relatively smooth, but when we get up here next to the big ones, we can see that it's pretty furrowed. It has lots of ridges. It's divided up. Sometimes these older trees have a purple color or a purple tint to the bark. Also, there's usually resin, white stuff that you can see kind of seeping out of some of the old branches. Oh, I almost fell down there. Up there you can see some of that pine tar sticking out. Each tree has male and female cones on it. So if we look on the ground, we can see a bunch of cones scattered around. And so in the springtime, the male cones give off a pollen. So sorry for you guys that have allergies, but springtime, a lot of our trees are giving off pollen. And then the female cones, they will accept the pollen and develop into the seeds. You can see here that some animals have been feeding on some of the seeds. They're kind of scattered around here. The cones have been eaten apart. So white pine's also pretty important for wildlife. There's birds that will nest and roost in these pines, especially in the wintertime. Roosting means just kind of sleep through the night. So we have hawks and owls and ravens and crows and blue jays and grackles and mourning doves and lots of other animals that will hide their nests in here. And other animals will use this to feed on. So the seeds that we're looking at down on the ground are often eaten by porcupines and chipmunks and squirrels and birds called nuthatches and chickadees and grosbeaks and crossbills. And white pines can get really large, so 200 feet tall plus If you go up to Cook's Forest, you'll see some really, impressive trees. Some of the biggest trees in the area. The cool thing about Cook's Forest is that there's a white pine there that's the tallest tree in Pennsylvania, and it's also the tallest tree in northeastern United States. And I believe it's 4th or 5th tallest tree in the country, which is really cool. And that one's over 170 feet tall. So it would be twice as large as this one that I'm standing under here, and probably even more so. So it's really cool to see that. The needles are in bundles of 5. I mentioned that earlier. Let's see if I can get a good example here to show you. I'll put one here on my folder. Let's see if we can get this off to show off kind of clear. There we go. So bundles of 5. A lot of our pines are arranged in bundles. And what that means is that they're connected at the bottom. So if we look here closely, we'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 needles in each bundle. Is that true? Yeah, there we go. This one a little bit easier to see for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2 here, 1 in the middle, and 2 here connected as well. And when we look at that, that's an easy thing to remember because all white pines have 5 needles in a bundle. You can spell out W-H-I-T-E, 5 letters, 5 needles per bundle. You'll find some of our pines have 2 needles in a bundle or 3 needles in a bundle in different arrangements. So that's an easy way to remember our white pines. And then looking here, I see a little bagworm. That's an insect that actually makes sort of a little silk bag out of needles, and it kind of lives in there. Doesn't do damage to a tree this size, but you got to watch out for them on your smaller trees in the landscape. We definitely don't want them to take over. So anyway, real quick, that's the end of our video about Eastern White Pine. I mentioned Dancing Gnome Brewery. They're over in Sharpsburg. They're going to be coming out with a new tree beer can every month for the entire year, 2020. And the first one is being released this Saturday, February 1st. And it's Eastern White Pine. And they came to Tree Pittsburgh. They've been proud supporters of us. They're right upriver from us. They said, hey, we need to figure out which 12 trees we should feature on our cans. And they want to provide a lot of information. So on the can, think of a label like a pill bottle, a medicine bottle. You can kind of peel off the label and see more. So basically every can they come out with is going to be a field guide. So you can drink a wonderful beer and learn about trees. And they talked to us at Tree Pittsburgh to figure out which 12 trees we could feature. And I'll be happy to say that I provided the artwork for the cans, and Chris over at Dancing Gnome made it look really nice on the labels for us, and then we put some information on there as well. So please check them out, dancinggnomebeer.com, and also Tree Pittsburgh. Keep an eye out for new videos about the urban forest, and hopefully you get out and enjoy trees, and send us questions or comments if you want to see a certain video featured. But Eastern White Pine, wonderful tree, and that's all for today.